everybody. Welcome to Fred and Tracy's show. I don't know. I want to call it something, it's Note Investing 101. It's kind of a little mini series we put together to kind of give everybody an understanding of the note industry and the note world. And this is the Ask Us Anything episode. So this is a free-for-all of you can ask us anything you want in this session.
Yes, we have also some most commonly asked questions, because whenever we do this, we answer emails and phone calls, and we typically get some of the same questions over and over. So we have some of those to present as well. And then, of course, it's live, so you can ask us anything that you want as well. We're just a brief, quick disclaimer. We are not attorneys or tax advisors or financial advisors. So if you need any of those things, we encourage you to seek out that competent counsel. And past performance isn't a guarantee of future results. This is information that we've gleaned from our 50 plus combined years of experience of doing this business. So note investing is a wonderful world for us, and there's so many opportunities in the note investing world. It's sort of a way for the average investor to be the bank, if you will. Mm-hmm. So let's kick us off with our first question.
Yeah, well, so we have some that are email submitted, as Tracy said, and we have some that are just common questions that every time we do one of these come up, and we don't mean to ignore certain questions as they come by. We're going to get to as many as we possibly can. One of the ones we always get right out of the gate, we've got somebody, Thomas says, do you know where I can find a listing of examples of creative financing terms when they should be used, like assumable and wrap? Yeah.
Absolutely. We do, Thomas. Thanks for joining us. So on our website, noteinvestor.com, we actually did a video and a write-up on creating seller finance notes. And so it's kind of a brief overview of what's most attractive to a note investor if somebody was going to buy the note. We find that the terms that are attractive to a note investor are the same kind of terms that make it a safer investment for the person that's carrying the note, that's handling the seller financing. So we also have a full-blown Creating Notes masterclass where we go into all the transactions, how to negotiate the terms, because we have your most favorable terms. And then we talk about wraps and partials and all of those great things. And so in general, investors like to see higher interest rates and lower LTVs and good credit scores. But when they meet those criteria, they might even actually qualify for bank financing. So we really go into depth on the specifics of how you negotiate when the LTV isn't perfect or when the credit isn't perfect, or when they want a lower interest rate. There's some things like shortening the term that you can do. So that is a great question. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah. One of the questions is, how big is the note business? We do this every year where we crunch numbers and anything along with Scott and, do the data. So we're usually a trailing year because we can't get all the data immediately. So we are on
2019 right now. We're waiting.
We should be getting 20.
As we speak, 2020 numbers should be coming in. So our data provider pulls from the county records every year. And in 2019, there was 23.9 billion with a B of seller finance notes that were created. And over the last 5 years, because, there's a trailing inventory. So there's a lot of inventory out there, especially when you think about notes being created for 15, 20, 30 years. So in the last 5 years, there was over 100 billion of seller finance notes created on residential, land, and commercial. What's interesting about that is it doesn't include seconds, it doesn't include unrecorded transactions, it doesn't include business notes. So when you add all those things in, they're even a larger number. But as I tell everybody, we just need a small slice of the pie to work with, and there's plenty there. Yeah,
there's roughly, just as a ballpark, so it's roughly 6% of all real estate transactions are actually privately done like that. So if you're looking for year to year and stuff like that, it's plus or minus depending on how it goes down. But it's roughly 6% of all real estate transactions. Even more when you start talking about business notes and things like that.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
So we had one submitted. Tell me again what to do if you have money to invest versus if you don't have your own money.
Yeah, so we do this even if you do have money to invest and you are buying your own notes, you're probably going to do both at some point. So if you're just starting out and you don't have any of your own money, then you're going to probably flip notes. It's also a really good way to kind of cut your teeth and learn the process and not be investing your own money. So in that, you're gonna find a deal. You're going to get all the information. You're going to pass it on to a funding source who's going to give you a quote. You're going to subtract your fee and offer something on to the seller, and then they're going to help you close it. When you have your own money, you just take out the funding source and write the check yourself. Do you want to talk about what happens if you're doing both?
That's true. Well, you can, well, what I was going to add, one thing is that you can also use your self-directed retirement account to purchase, or you could, as Fred mentioned, you could do both. So you could buy the note, a full, and then sell a partial to another investor, and their purchase of part of the payment stream would cover your purchase of the full, and you can create yourself a residual income, some future cash flow. So that would be a way to do a participation in a transaction without having your own money and using an outside investor, but keeping a piece of the note out into the future. Mm-hmm. That's one of our favorites. We love partials.
We love partials. Yeah. Aldo said, on seller finance note, how do you deal with the fair market value of the house / property, knowing that the seller finance houses typically sell higher retail MLS listing price that changes your LTV? Absolutely. It's an outstanding question. I can tell you, as an investor or anybody buying notes, you're always going to go for the lower value. So just because something sold for, this is true, by the way, if you're looking at a note that, say, sold 5 years ago, and someone thinks it went up in value, and maybe you get an appraisal and it comes out a little bit lower. For your ITV and LTV issues, as far as figuring out what you're willing to put in, you're always going to take the safer number between the two. You're going to take the lower number. So if the property sold for 100,000, but it appraises for 80, and everybody feels pretty good about the appraisal at 80, then you're going to base your numbers off 80, not what it really sold for.
Yeah, in the Creating Notes Masterclass, I suggest using, as a rule of thumb, if you're creating notes, about a 10% variable. So when you sell with owner financing, that's considered a amenity or a concession, a financing concession. And so when appraisers do adjustments, they may or may not take that into account. So we usually say that if you're selling with seller financing, you can usually get about 10% more than the standard asking price than if somebody came in with full cash or conventional offer. And with real estate prices appreciating like they have been, usually, depending on how long you wait, that 10% gap will get covered up with appreciation. But Fred is 100% right. If the BPO or appraisal comes in lower, most investors are going to use that lower amount. So how much down payment that buyer has is important. If you're in there, you definitely don't want to set a buyer up where they're underwater. So if you're in that situation, then investor might look at offering a partial, say, oh, I'll buy the next 5 or 10 years of payments. When that performs well over the next year, then I'll go in and buy some more payments. So there are ways to do that, but you're very smart for asking that question, because you do want to keep an eye out for that, both for selling the note and also for the buyer, the borrower. You want to make sure they're set up for success too.
Someone asked, how do you explain discount?
Well, I'm going to give you that one.
So we've done entire member webinars, not only on what the discount is and how to explain it, but how to position it. And there's basically 5 different ways, which I won't go into now because that takes an hour to go through. But basically, the letter of the law of really what discount is discount is the difference between what they wrote the note at interest rate wise and how much I want to make on it. So if they wrote the note at 6, and I want to earn 12, then that's where we're going to create the discount, because we can't go back and change the seller's payments. We can't change their balance. So I'm going to buy the same cash flow for less money, and that's going to create whatever the interest rate is, or whatever my interest rate requirement is, creates that discount. Now, that discount could be created because of the difference between the interest rates. It could be because I'm only willing to put in, 80% of the value of the property. And it turns out, the numbers show I could have paid more, but I'm like, well, this is my ceiling. This is as much as I'm going to be able to put in. So we have a tendency to tell sellers that, look, there's several variables to it. It's going to be how long they've paid, what interest rate you wrote it at, what the property's appraised for, things like that.
And another way to explain discount is also, a lot of times, if somebody, you can say to the seller, if someone had come in and offered you cash at closing, would you have been willing to take a little bit less than what you sold the property for when you seller finance? And usually they'd be like, yeah, somebody would have paid me cash. I would have loved that. And what we're doing is we're essentially paying them cash, all cash now. And so for that privilege of getting all cash now, there is a little bit of a discount. And sometimes we have some other strategies where we'll take the discount, we'll divide it by the number of months that are left in the amortization to show that it averaged out over time. It's just a little bit they're giving up. We have several ways to do that depending on the reason the note is being discounted. So that could depend, as Fred mentioned, several situations. So that is how we would explain that depending on the particulars of the note. Great question.
Sharvan said, do you see the note space eventually becoming oversaturated like wholesaling?
It's It's a good question.
It's a great question. If you would have asked me that 25 years ago, I would have said absolutely, because I wouldn't have thought that look, I mean, I know what it's done for me different. It's part of why we do these, is to kind of give back quite a bit. I was in a 500 square foot apartment doing these deals out of there as I learned the industry and things like that. And I thought, once everybody understands this and knows about this, everybody's going to do this. But I guess it's like everything else. It's just, only so many people are going to put in the time and learn and move forward. And a lot of people, at the end of the day, look, it's not get rich quick. It's a good return. And, people look at it and go, well, they get on to the next shiny object. Like, oh, hey, we're on Forex trading this week, or we're on options trading this week, or now we're running over here and we're doing something else. So, flipping, what's that home shopping that we're not HGTV. I mean, now we're going to flip houses. So, I would have said yes years ago, but I'll tell you what, after being in this since the 80s and 90s, no, I don't think it is. I don't think it's any more mainstream today than it was back then, from the standpoint of being oversaturated. Do I think that there's competition? Sure. I think that the internet created us seeing each other as competitors more than before. It used to be when you direct mail somebody, they didn't even know they could sell. So the only thing that's really changed is sellers are more aware they can sell their note than they were then, but I don't actually seeing it being oversaturated anytime soon.
What I see is that there is some compression in pricing, and so it's more competitive, which is great if you're selling notes. So you have to really sharpen your pencil when you're buying the notes. I also see, if you feel like you're encountering too much competition, one solution to that is getting into the space where you're creating notes yourself, or you're helping sellers that are investors of real estate create notes. That is a way to carve out your own piece of the market that you're not going to bump into competition, because not as many people are doing that. You're creating your own notes, and so you wouldn't compete against yourself to buy or sell a note. That is one way, as I see some of the competition picking up, that you can carve out your own little space in there. But that's a great question. I agree with Fred. When I got started in 1988, everybody kept saying, oh, there's too much competition. And we just, I think maybe activity does breed activity, and it becomes more commonplace, more people get involved, and we have a bigger market, and maybe the seller financing, the mom and pop investors will take over a piece of what the banks aren't doing. I also think there's one other reason that we're real strong pro on the seller financing side of the business, and that is because lenders are starting to restrict their lending criteria. So they're requiring higher credit scores and bigger down payments. And we see people that have had some hiccups in their income due to COVID and that sort of situation in the economy or in their regular paychecks. And because of that, fewer what they call non-QMs or non-qualified mortgages loans are being made. And that's really where seller financing fills the need. If you look at stats, we've been tracking them a long time. If you look at stats, you'll see that when there's that sort of a situation, the amount of seller financing goes up. So there's more opportunity to help people.
Someone asked, what do you typically want to pay for pay history on a newer originated seller finance note, 6 to 12 months or more? Or do you consider the borrower's FICO score 750 to 100 to reduce your risk?
So investors would love to have 6 to 12 months. That would be optimum, preferably verified through a third-party servicer or some kind of verification that the payments were made. If they have a good credit score and a decent down payment, there are a lot of investors that will purchase that note with just one payment made. So they do want the transaction to close and get recorded and one payment made to the seller. What kind of notes are those? Well, there are investors out there on the institutional side, if it's a 680 score with 10 to 20% down and the balance is over 80,000, that they'll look at those with one payment made in the 95 cent and up range. Now, some notes are going to pay less. Some notes are going to come back and say we'd like 6 to 12 months seasoning. So that credit score and the down payment really do dictate how many months of seasoning it's going to need. So great question.
Someone asked what tools to use to calculate the best way to create a partial sale on a note. We use calculators. It's not rocket science. I mean, as far as once you understand the cash flow aspect of it, you just find the different ways to break it. But what the deciding factor on what or how to purchase a partial or what offer to make on a partial really is your own ITV requirements, your own yield requirements, and then also why they're selling. There's a big difference between offering, a $30,000 partial and an $80,000 partial, depending on what they're going to use the money for.
We also use something called T-value amortization schedule, because as much as I love my financial calculator, What we find is that when you're buying and selling partials, someone would like to see a printed out amortization schedule. And so by using the T-Value amortization software, we're able to have a printed schedule, and we can show the full schedule, we can show the partial schedule and what's left over. Interestingly enough, we believe in that software so much that when people join our Note Investing Tools membership, we actually give them a full subscription, online subscription to T-Value. We are an authorized reseller of there, and they've allowed us to give that to our members. So that's one of the benefits we have. We have a whole training class on how to use T-Value in the note business. And so those are both tools that you can use. There's other types of amortization schedules out there. We really like it because it has a lot of flexibility, and it's been proven to work really great for calculating IRR, which is what we do in the note investing world. Well, what's next for a question?
Randy asked, what's the difference between flipping a note and brokering a note, and do you need a license in Florida?
Oh, right. So flipping and brokering notes pretty much the same, right?
Yeah, so I mean, basically the flipping, they're exactly the same. And part of it really has to do with just an industry term that it was changing, much like we don't use the word lending because we're not lenders. Brokering can misconstrue what your function or relationship is in the transaction, is that you don't represent the seller, you don't represent the funder. So I think that was just a term that switched several years ago that just called it flipping. Plus also people were used to hearing about flipping houses. So it made sense to say flipping notes.
And what we talk about for different states is it really depends on how you're transacting your business. Are you coming in on the secondary market and buying a note on the secondary market? If you're originating loan, like not a seller financing deal, but actually lending money, of course, there are mortgage brokers licenses. So we don't answer specific state questions, but we can direct you to a couple of good resources of links, the NMLS site, and also there's another state-by-state site. So we'll follow up in the show notes, and we can do that as well, just because for legal reasons, we aren't able to give specific advice in all 50 states.
Mm-hmm. One of the questions we get a lot is, should I have a website? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think even the simplest brochure website is absolutely important.
Yes, I think that it used to be you had to have a brick and mortar business. Now, fortunately, it's very acceptable for you to work from home. And so I think you have to have a website because it's your presence out in the world. It shows that you're real, you're legitimate. We all do it. We go Google and look up a company or a person before we do business with them, as you should, definitely. And that website is one of the things that is an indicator that you're for real. And fortunately, they're not very expensive anymore.
Yep. Although did ask, and it's just a follow-up question, do you use any note evaluation software that may have been typed in before? But yeah, T-Value. T-Value is great for also when you start getting bizarre cash flows and you want to save them, because in a calculator, you can't really save anything. It's super helpful for that. It's our go-to for anything, particularly when you start talking about things that get off the grid or you want to retain things.
We also we have some friends that we've assisted with some testing and whatnot with noteunlimited.com. And we're not getting anything out of plugging them, but they have some great evaluation software that shows a variety of exit strategies, pulls in data from the different sites. I tend to use an Excel spreadsheet still a lot to keep track of things. Fortunately, their program and others out there allow you to upload and download the Excel spreadsheet as well.
We get to ask a lot about the retirement accounts, because we mentioned that you can buy notes in a self-directed retirement account, and a lot of people didn't know you could do that. And the answer is yes, you can. You set up a special account for that, and when you buy a note out of your self-directed IRA, the money does not go to you. The money, actually, the payments have to go into your IRA. So don't get that check and cash it and think you're going to just deposit into your IRA, because you can't do that. But basically, you use your self-directed IRA to fund a note, and the payments go back in there. And the great thing is, there's no limit to what your IRA can make, so you can get very, very creative on that. And you can actually have a traditional IRA that you can convert over to one that you just direct where all the payments go. And you do a lot of this with Quest and some of the other companies.
Yeah, I have been doing self-directed retirement account investing in notes since 1997 when I left the corporate world. 88 to 97, I bought notes for an institutional investor. and ran their closing department and worked in their underwriting. And then when I went out on my own in 97, I rolled over my 401k into a self-directed retirement account and bought and sold notes out of there. I also do a lot of guest speaking for Quest and NewView and a couple of the self-directed IRA custodians. They're all very good. You have lots of options. When I got started, I think there was 1 or 2, and now there's probably 20 or 30 that are all really, really good at what they do. Either you can do a Roth, you can have a solo 401k, you can have SEPs, you can have Simples, you can have HSA, health savings accounts that invest in notes. There's so many options out there, and you can go through your custodian. The big thing you have to educate yourself on is that this is for the benefit of your IRA. That's why it has all these tax advantages. And so that means you have to know who the disqualified people are to avoid what's called a prohibited transaction. And basically it comes down to don't be putting assets you already own into there. Don't be writing loans to your family members, your spouse, your children, your parents. So it's kind of ascendants and descendants. There's this linear line. The IRA companies do a great job of explaining what to do. That's the main thing you've got to look for, and also not to take possession of the funds, as Fred mentioned. There's other ways you can do it. You can set up an LLC that's wholly owned by your IRAs. So some people do that, so they have a little bit more control. When you're first getting started with it, we suggest you go through your custodian because they'll direct you in the right way of the do's and the don'ts. And then when you get that down, then you might do something more advanced, like setting up a trust where your IRA is the beneficiary, or setting up an LLC. Great questions. I love the IRAs. There's lots of great networking events as well on the IRA group.
So these questions have to do with today and the membership, because it opens today. And as I mentioned earlier, the membership only opens twice a year. It happens to be opening today, and it'll run for a couple of days. So first of all, what is the Note Investing membership? It's a private membership that Tracy and I teach, and we'll give you the link in a little bit. But basically, you get all of our trainings, all of the member webinars, which we do every other week. We have a Note Mastermind. It's everything. It's everything we've ever created. And we figured there was several different components that you needed, but basically you needed to have the education of it as far as the materials, the nuts and bolts, and everything that go along with that, and support being a really, really big one as well.
One of the things we added, because we've had the trainings before, we had the membership. And one of the pieces that we felt was missing when we did the membership and started the membership part in 2018 was we wanted to be able to do some one-on-one consulting with people. So we have live webinars, what are like group coaching calls, but then people can also book one-on-one consults with us. And they usually use those to go over a deal. So it's a private conversation where they want some input on a deal. Now, we can't give investment advice, but we can definitely say, here are the things I would ask if I was buying that deal. Here's the things to look out for.
Right.
And then a lot of people, because Fred is our marketing genius, a lot of people schedule one-on-ones with Fred to go over their marketing plan, just to tweak it and to improve it. And so I'm really proud of that coaching side of it that we do. And where people are charged tens of thousands for coaching, ours is very affordable. Fred and I said, if we're going to do this, it has to be at a price point that if we were getting into the business, we'd be willing to pay, because we're kind of the skeptics, right? We like to get a really good value for our money. We don't mind paying for something if it's good value, but we're not going to go drop 10 or 20 grand because we go buy a note if we were going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret. We haven't raised the price, and there's a reason why the doors are only open twice a year. It's $97 a month. Yeah. There's no long-term commitments. The reason it's only twice a year, and the reason we limit the number of people that are in there, are because it's us. We don't outsource the help desk. We don't outsource anybody creating the videos. We don't outsource any of the new classes every year. We're adding different trainings. You added the Creating Notes Masterclass. Before that, we had how to calculate cash flows and finding cash flow notes. And then we have mini series, ones that go due diligence and all these other things. We've got some coming up. So the members get access to everything in addition to the ongoing webinars. So because it's us, because if you send an email or schedule a conference call or get on the help desk and get in the little chat thing there and send that off, it's us. So we limit it. So like I said, it's twice a year, and that's it. Question: when do you open the doors? Actually, they're opening today. Like I said, it's been 181 days since we last opened up the doors. The intent is to keep the doors open for 7 days. The fact of the matter is that as we've done this, every time we've opened up our doors, which has been 2.5 years now, I think we've done it, we have been able to accept less and less members, because yes, some people leave and they go on to do something else or whatever it is, but a lot don't. And we have a lot of members that are actually involved in other things, and they still stay with us because there's value there, and we're big on over delivering. Like I said, some of this for us is giving back. So the intent is to keep it open for 7 days. If we have to close it a little bit sooner, or you're seeing this late, then I apologize, but I don't think you'd want it any other way. We make sure we have the number that we can handle it, and that's it.
Some people ask us, do you sell us deals? And that's one of the things Fred and I talked at length about when we did this. We feel like if we're going to train and teach you, we shouldn't at the same time be selling you the deals. And so we train and teach you. So when we evaluate a deal, we're comfortable saying, yeah, maybe here's what I would ask. So we teach you how to go find the deals, and we'll help you evaluate the deals without giving financial advice. We'll direct you to the right vendors, people that we've had good experience with. We'll help you crunch the numbers to make sure you didn't miss anything in your calculation. So that's the kind of support we're doing, but we don't sell you the deals. There's lots of places, as we talked about in the marketing class, that you can go find the deals. Yeah,
and just to add to what Tracy's saying, because it's a term that's out there, we're not going to partner with you. So if you say, hey, I'm looking for a partner to go in this deal with you, it's not going to happen. I mean, we're Switzerland. We're going to continue to educate. I'm not trying to, sell you a deal or partner with you on a deal or, anything like that. So we are we very much keep our world what it is, which is education and support, and be able to walk people what we've done. Like I said, it's a very big give back thing for us. We've been very fortunate. We've lived our lives all over the world and still been able to do our note business. We've lived in Guatemala for 8 months. We've lived in Italy. We've come all over.
I'd rather be Italy than Switzerland. Fred could be Switzerland.
Well, but everybody understands Switzerland. John says, Fred and Tracy are legit. I've gotten a lot of their memberships. Thank you, John. We really appreciate it.
John. That's very kind of you.
I don't know if this is like a bad luck to say this, but I was realizing today, because we were opening up the doors, I don't think we've ever had anybody complain about the membership. Ever. We've had people leave to go on and do something different, or something in their lives changes where they can't continue the membership. I mean, we have people literally apologizing for dropping out. And anybody that drops out would say, hey, look, we'll keep a seat for you or something like that. But I'm super proud of what we've built. I mean, and you can talk to any of the members or anybody that's been a member, and it's never been about not providing enough service. We are stupid in our over delivering ability.
No, we're not.
Well, I mean, it's just just
genuine.
Crazy. So yeah,
it is crazy though. Yeah, people beat us up for it, but we enjoy fun. It. We have what was become a note investing family. We have a community, and we have the mastermind that we all get on a big Zoom call and brainstorm different things in addition to the group coaching calls and the trainings and the teachings. But we just found that was another element that people wanted to get to know each other that was in the training as well. So those are optional. Some people are camera shy, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. We don't put people on the spot. The membership with the mastermind and that community has been really nice. And we did run it off of Facebook. Now we're set up our own private community, because we saw some people don't want to have their business on Facebook. I don't blame them.
I don't want to be on Facebook.
So that's been a nice addition. So we kind of grow and expand as our members ask for things. You guys have given us great ideas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the mastermind's our newest thing that started this year, and we're pretty excited about it. I know it's the first Monday, so what we're doing this Monday is we're actually going to role play. And a lot of what we create, a lot of the member webinars, a lot of the even full-blown trainings, and even the mastermind subjects, what we're doing, come from the members. They come from members saying, hey, I'd like to know more about this, or I'd like to know about that. You walk into a library that has several hundred videos ready to go. Matter of fact, any of the members that come in this next week, you have access to all the old member webinars, which there are 88 hours of member webinars, and they're all really, really good. There's a lot of great content. So we get our ideas from members going forward on there. So the mastermind, like this coming up mastermind, we're actually going to role play buying a note. So I'm going to pretend to be a note seller, and people are going to gather the information, and Tracy's going to be the funder for them, and how they would buy and what they would pay. And then we're going to break it apart and talk about, here's what I would have said differently. Or here's the questions I would have asked, so that we can do some of that. So that's a new kind of found ground. And everybody, like I said, the members are going to get that as well.
Thomas had a good question. Other people ask this, so we just want to answer it. If you have purchased a prior training, You still always own access to that. What if you want to add the membership, and we have had a lot of people do that, what you get differently in the membership is you get the coaching, the one-on-one coaching, you get the coaching webinars, you get the mastermind, you get all the archived information, and we have a lot of additional materials as far as ebooks you can use and email scripts and social media content posts. So some people have purchased, this is the easiest way for me to explain it, because that's a really good question, is it's like if you buy a movie, you own the movie for life. And that's basically when you buy a training. When you purchase a Netflix subscription, you have access to those things while your subscription is current. And that's what the membership is. And so some people add on the membership to the trainings because they want the one-on-one coaching and the support and the access to us. And sometimes they'll just do that for a few months. And then, like I said, there's no long-term commitments. Really mean that. If you called us up and said to end it, that you wouldn't get a future billing. And then they just go back to using their training. So however you choose to do it, we did both options because some people like that affordable monthly option. Some people just want to purchase the training. Some people don't want the support. So you have options, right?
And if you're a member, you get access to anything we create in the future as well.
Always,
so you actually, that's something, even the cash flow expos and the wise women expos, those we throw in. So
the T-values.
which is why, again, we keep the count pretty low on there. I guess we're just about out of time. If there's any other, I don't know if there's any more questions. Oh, so let me give you the website of where the doors are open right now. So if you go to noteinvestor.com/member, we just opened up the doors as of 1:30. So talk about great timing. If you get there or you see this video late and now there's a waiting list, I apologize. I'm sorry you didn't see this in time, but our intent is to keep it up for 7 days. I don't know that it'll be there. There's no long-term obligation. If it's live and it says the doors are open and you can grab a seat, grab a seat. And we look forward to helping you there. We have one thing right out of the gate that I would say to focus on would be the 90-day course. There's what to do in your first 90 days. So that would say keep going on there forever. As far as like after 90 days, you do it on your own. I mean, not forever. What
we found was because we have so much material and we've over delivered in the material, it got a little hard for people. They would go, oh my goodness, where do I start? There's so many videos. There's all these 4 full-blown trainings. I have a 475-page manual. Where do I start? So we said, let's just back this up. And if you're new to the note investing world, let's just give you a 90-day quick start. So here are the must-read things to do. Here's your action plan for the next 90 days. And then as you're doing the business, you're going to get these other questions that come in and you'll be able to go pull from the other trainings and dig deeper. And if you want to learn about hypothecations or you want to learn about partials.
Someone just asked about
Oh, did they?
Yeah, although actually email us at info@noteinvestor.com and we'll respond to your question.
We just did a whole session in depth.
It's a big animal for this particular webinar, but we do want to answer your questions. Just email us.
First, lending on a note versus buying the note. There's pros and cons to each, and it depends on the situation. We did a whole full-blown webinar on that because it's such a great, and there's lots of different agreements out there. So people come to us in our membership. We have people that, believe it or not, attorneys, accountants, CPAs, but you don't have to be those to be part of our membership. We have people who didn't graduate college like myself, and just really good with working with numbers and people and good at marketing. So this is a good business for anyone who wants to work at it, that is looking to maybe add on to their existing real estate business or to find an alternative way to invest that's backed by real estate and they're concerned about the turmoil in the stock market. It's just an alternative way to diversify. And it's a really great concept too, because when we talk about how to calculate cash flows in one of our trainings, it really gives you the pieces and the tools you need to analyze any situation, whether you're buying a car or paying off a credit card. I'm really proud of that training.
Yeah, you should be. You should be. It's, by the way, the training that I said that everybody needs, but no one care about. And I was completely wrong because everybody needs that. And you did it. And that was a labor of love. That was
one of our members came and he said, I had a mom who was a math teacher and I love my mom, but I had her as a math teacher because I lived in a small town and I couldn't do math. I hated math. All I could think of was I would freeze. And he said, I finally love the calculator. I am now teaching other people how to use it based on your course. And that was one of the biggest compliments. So, and his mom's proud too, I'm sure. Yeah. So you can tell we're real people. We look forward to working with you. If the timing is right for you now, we welcome you. If it's in the future, still hang out, be part of our family, subscribe to our noteinvestor.com blog, because we have lots of great information. We'll be publishing the news stats as well. And just to remind you, if you are interested in the membership, it's noteinvestor.com/member. And we're available if you've got questions. Fred mentioned our email. You can always email us if you have any questions on how all that works. And we really appreciate your time here today. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Larry, thank you. I just saw your comment. Thank you very much for the great comment. And
thank you, Larry.
Noteinvestor.com/member. If you have any questions, you can email us also. And thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Happy note investing.
Bye.